Welcome back. And in the last video, we introduced the extremely important concept of the results chain, the chain of events which leads to any outcome that we get in life. So it starts with a stimulus or event, which triggers a belief, releasing chemicals in the body. You then interpret the situation, you give it meaning, resulting in further chemicals being released to put you into an emotional state. You then act from that state, giving you the results that you get in life. Today we're going to take our first step in intervening in this chain to change the result, so you haven't got something like anxiety controlling your life and your outcomes. We're going to start by intervening at this interpretation or meaning phase. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist famous for his book Man's Search for Meaning. The book's about his experiences as a prisoner of the Nazi death camps in World War II and about who was able to survive one of the harshest environments you can imagine and why. He talks about the conditions in the camp and also the treatment that they were subjected to by the guards. You can imagine how often these prisoners were triggered, and it was your response to these triggers which had a significant bearing on your survival. He says between the stimulus and your response is a space, and within that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. And in those choices lie our growth and happiness. So it's here, in this link of the chain, where we interpret the things that go on during our day. Every moment is a multiple choice question where we choose the meaning we're putting on events. We need to understand what's happening in the moment, detach ourselves from the situation, which is a skill you'll learn in the World Class Friend programs, and become aware of the space or choice point. And rather than reacting unconsciously, we're choosing what that event means, and then we're choosing our response. Now this is a skill and it takes practice, and the way I suggest you take charge of that meaning is through a series of questions that give you a new perspective on the situation. I call them meaning questions. As we go through the questions, try to relate them to a situation which typically tends to cause you anxiety. Start to think about the trigger and what what meaning you're putting on the situation. The trigger and the meaning. And then answer these questions. Does it really mean that? As we've seen, your first thought is more often than not going to be a negative one because it's your brain's job to show you the threats. Your brain will tend to run a highlight reel of everything that could possibly go wrong. That's normal and natural. When that happens, you'll feel it in your body. When you do, think to yourself, I can feel this, but does it really mean that? Could it be anything else? There's usually 100 other meanings you could have put on things, and more often than not, it doesn't work out to be the negative one you started with. What am I deciding in order to feel this way? So this is a big one. What is it? That you're not good enough? What are you deciding in that moment? Am I going to believe that thought, or will I choose something else? So a thought is just an idea. They come and they go. We can choose a more suitable one. What do I want instead? And is there any specific action I can take? So you've gone from running scenarios in your head that lead to a downward spiral from this interpretation or meaning point to taking action that completely changes the course of the chain to something that leads in an upward direction toward what you want. You've taken charge of the meaning and taken charge of the result. Over time, with practice, going through these questions in your mind then becomes the habit or program. Handling the things which cause you stress in that way becomes the unconscious chain. You don't even know you're doing it. And you haven't got things like anxiety, depression, anger, and overwhelm controlling your life. And opportunities for positive results, whatever they are for you, start to open up. These unconscious programs, the way you're programmed to respond to things, are determining your results in life. Once you begin to be aware of them, you can change them and completely change the way your life is panning out. A world-class friend, that's what we help you do. Okay, so between now and the next video, I want you to put these meaning questions into practice. Take a situation that is causing you anxiety and see if you can recognize the way that you're interpreting that situation, and then reinterpret it using the meaning questions. See what you can come up with. And then on the next video, we'll look at how to intervene in another phase of this results chain, your emotional state. We're going to be talking about emotional state control and the 3 things to change to take charge of an emotional state like anxiety. We'll see you then.